Hey guys, Chris here from Boxing Brothers Online Coaching, and today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about check hooks. Step, boom, let your hand, and let the hand swing out. Oh, out you go. Again, boom, boom. Okay, so first we're going to cover when to throw the check hook. That's one of the biggest questions. The best time to throw a check hook is when you're being pressured by your opponent. So more often than not, when you're receiving pressure, you might be on that back foot and your opponent is pressuring you forward and you're eventually approaching those ropes or the corners. You want to try to avoid them as much as you can. So as your opponent's coming forward, you want to be able to swing out that hook and pivot away from your opponent so that you can execute the angle and no longer travel in that straight line. Okay, so whenever you're receiving pressure, you wouldn't necessarily throw a check hook on the front foot. You can, absolutely can, moving forward and bang, angling out, etc. But more often than not, the check hook is most used and most effective on that back foot as you're receiving pressure from your opponent. And oftentimes you want to do it when they're at that mid to close range, so you've got a little bit more to leverage off. Not so much a longer range, because the further you are from your opponent, when you do make a sharp angle using that check hook, the higher chance you have of missing that hook and the higher chance you have of your opponent being able to accommodate and adjust with you. Whereas when they're a little bit closer, you can higher chance of connecting with them and you can angle out a little bit closer to them. It's going to be harder for them to adjust. Okay, so next you want to determine where would you check hook. Okay, so we know when we're on that back foot receiving pressure and we're trying to get away from an opponent that's creeping forward and pressuring us. And keeping that pressure on us. Now, whereabouts in the ring would be the best to do it? So you can do it in the middle of the ring. You can absolutely do it in the middle of the ring. But more often than not, you want to do it as you're approaching those ropes, or as you feel like you're about to be trapped in a corner or whatever it is, or if they get there a little bit closer. So which direction that you check hook in is really important also. So for example, if I'm moving back with my opponent and the ropes to my left are closer than the ropes to my right, I want to be check hooking away from that corner. I don't want to be check hooking into that corner or into those ropes. So having ring awareness when you check hook is really important so that you avoid check hooking yourself into a direction that's going to cause more trouble than actually easing the pressure that you're receiving from your opponent. So whenever you're moving around and you want to get that check hook on, again, you can do it in the middle of the ring when they're getting that little bit close, a little bit pressured on you. But essentially, as you feel like, and you don't want to wait until that last second either, because as you're approaching those ropes, if you wait to get really close to those ropes, they know what you're up to. They know that you're trying to draw them in for something, okay? So you don't want to wait until you get too close to the ropes so it's not too late and they don't know what's going on. Bang, check hook out a little bit sooner, okay? And again, you want to be check hooking away from the closest ropes, wherever that may be. Now, you can also check hook from the middle of the ring. So let's just say you're neutral and you're in the center of the ring with your opponent, and then you identify that they're going to spark up and rush at you. So instead of going straight back in a straight line, you've identified that they've picked up the tempo of the fight, you just bang, check hook out on them in the center of the ring so that you can maintain the center of the ring and avoid traveling backwards in that straight line because that's the intention of your opponent. So again, in the middle of the ring, you're both coasting, you're both cruising, and then they spark up at you, they come at you with multiple punches and boom, you check hook out. You can do that into the center of the ring as well, so you can maintain the center and avoid having to travel backwards. Okay, let's move on to actually check hooking. Let's move on to how to check hook, okay? So when it comes to check hooking, the most important component is the footwork. Without the footwork, you're not going to be able to check hook, okay? As much as the action may seem like it's all up here because you're throwing that hook and you might be clipping them and swinging out with that shot, if you don't have the footwork in place, you're not going to be able to execute the check hook, okay? So when you're exercising this concept, make sure you practice just the feet first without the punch, okay? So my suggestion would be a good way to practice it, moving backwards. Let's say my lead foot, I'm orthodox. So my lead foot is the foot I'm going to pivot off, is my point of access when I'm check hooking out to my left with my lead hand. Bang, check hooking out that way. My right foot, my rear foot, is going to be the foot that I pivot off when I check hook out to my right. Boom, out like that. Okay, so what you want to be doing is moving backwards, get a little bit of momentum moving backwards, and then my suggestion would be from here, just pivoting out. Yeah, so your left foot is your point of access when you pivot out to the left, and your right foot is your point of access as you pivot out to the right. Bang. You don't change from orthodox to southpaw. You keep your traditional stance. I'm moving back, my rear foot, all it's doing is bang, pivoting back. I'm pivoting off that rear foot, and my lead foot just whips back. Yeah, likewise, vice versa. I'm going back, my lead foot, boom, whips back. Okay, that's what I suggest you practice. Moving back, moving back, moving back, boom. Another thing you want to practice is stepping out as well. So we're going back, 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 step and pivot. Little step out. Moving back, 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 step and pivot. Okay? If you're at that slightly longer range, that's the best way to do it. Get that little bit of step out, moving backwards, step, pivot. Likewise in the opposite direction, moving back, 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 step and pivot. Practice it with the step, practice it without the step. Okay? Practice it moving neutrally as well. So you might just moving around, doing your shadow boxing. Just practice it as a footwork drill, moving around, on the move, on the move, on the move, and then suddenly, boom, big pivot out, back on the move, back on the move, back on the move, step out. Okay? Spend some time practicing it on the spot, on the back foot, with the step, without the step, and with your neutral footwork. Okay, now, so the punch, the actual hook itself. I personally believe that the hook is secondary to the footwork. Okay? So once you've got your footwork in place, you just use that hook to leverage your feet into the direction that you want to travel, because it's your feet that are going to get you out of trouble. They're going to get you out of that sticky situation. So we've got the footwork on. We're going to be moving, moving, moving. Now what I want you to do is step out with your lead foot, for example. Prioritize the feet. Now do the pivot and just incidentally let the hook swing out. Just keep your hands nice and relaxed by your side. Don't have to be too tight with the guard yet, okay? But moving backwards, take that step out, yeah? Now pivot and just let your hand swing, okay? Just for now, that's how we're gonna do it. Likewise in the opposite direction, you're pivoting back, stepping back, all right? Step out, and again, boom, you'll feel it. Again, don't neglect the footwork, the commitment to your feet and the focus on the feet just to get a nice hook out. Don't worry about the hook too much. What I want you to do now is move around, step, right? Pivot and let the hand swing out. And feel the leverage from your feet and the momentum from your footwork, and from that pivot, incidentally swing that shot around, okay? Moving, step, boom. Good. Again, moving, step, boom. Remember, whatever direction you're pivoting out to, that's the foot that you want to be pivoting off. That's your point of access. Okay, once you've understood the significance of the footwork and how the punch is secondary, but you've got the punch and the footwork timing together, okay? The two are happening at the same time. You're not going big hook and then pivot, okay? Or you're not going pivot and then hook. It is simultaneous. That is absolutely crucial. Same time, yeah? Absolutely simultaneous. Once you've got on that, let's tighten up the hook. So it is so important that that hook is nice and high and the chin is down. You need to hide yourself, because if more often than not, when you're receiving pressure, that's when you'll be using the check hook. When you're receiving that pressure, chances are they're throwing as well. So you don't want to come out with a check hook with the low hands and a high head and get clipped. So as you're moving back, nice tight guard. You're going to take that step, or you can do it on the spot, and the chin has to drop. I'm probably hitting the microphone now. Chin has to drop. Elbow comes up nice and high, and boom. That elbow needs to be up really high. Elbow needs to be right up there. Chin needs to be right down here, so that on your exit, during the exchange, you don't get clipped. Okay? Boom. Elbow up really high, palm facing down. Chin down into the shoulder. Okay? And the other hand, whatever hand you're not punching with, really tight. You want to make sure that you check hook with caution, really secure. Not with the head up and the hands down, because if they're coming forward and they're pressuring you, you might get clipped on your way out, especially if they've identified that you're gonna pivot out, you're gonna escape. They might try to throw more punches to keep you there, okay? So moving around, nice tight guard, chin down, moving around, step, pivot. As you pivot, again, hand up really high. Has to be high so it protects yourself. And what you're doing is you're creating a little bit of traffic as you try to exit against your opponent, okay? Because if I'm moving back now, my opponent's pressuring me, probably throwing punches. Yes, I can just step and pivot out. It's going to be effective, but it's going to be a lot more effective if I create a little bit of traffic. If I give my opponent something to worry about, create a bit of apprehension in my opponent. As I'm moving back, I can pivot out, but if they punch, I'm going to cop it on the guard, whatever. If I move around and I hook, they'll be a little bit more concerned about not getting caught by that hook than you actually getting out. So you create the hook as a little bit of a distraction. And if it does clip them, even better. Think of it like that. Don't throw that check hook with the intention to really do some damage. You will be able to develop the ability to do so in the future. But for now, the footwork, right? And that real high, secure approach. And then back to you moving. Back to you moving, cruising around. Nice and easy, boom. Elbow up nice and high. The elbow needs to be up really high, okay? Good stuff, give that a practice. Okay, finally, we're gonna focus on the follow-up, okay? So once you've done that check hook, you don't wanna necessarily leave it at that, okay? You always wanna have a follow-up, either attack or retreat. It's depending on the circumstances you're in. Again, we can really dive into this and spend a long time explaining all the different circumstances, but once you've done a check hook, okay, let's say I've moved back, receiving that pressure, boom, I've checked hook out, chances are you've really created a lot of vulnerability for your opponent. So once you've done that check hook, if you've executed a really efficient angle against them, you need to cash in on it, man, because you've done the hard work. The hard work is, boom, getting that angle. Now the bloke isn't even facing you. You got to let those shots go. So you've, boom, created the angle, and then, bop, let the attacks go, okay? You're moving back, boom, created the angle, let those shots go, okay? Now, another option is you're moving back, boom, you create the angle. If you're still receiving pressure, just circle out. That's another option. You want to be able to do both. You want to have both tools in the shed, so do practice them both. Practice moving back or just neutral, whatever it may be. Get that check hook on and then throwing a nice, strong, fast, hard, committed combination, do some damage. And also practice getting that check hook on and then just on the move, yeah? So that you have both tools in the shed. Another little addition you might want to add to efficiently executing the check hook against your opponent is off your evasion. So let's say, for example, you evade a shot or you get your head off the center. Sometimes getting your head off the center may not even be necessarily to avoid a shot. You might get your head off the center, they haven't even thrown anything, but you've broken up the rhythm and you've thrown them off a little bit. But nonetheless, getting your head off the center, you take that foot out with you, getting your head off the center, and then once I've transferred my weight onto that leg, let's say I've slipped out that way, but I can leverage off the weight that I've transferred onto that leg, boom, for that check hook. So off your slip as well, essentially. Moving back, I'm like, boom, I slip, bang, out I go with that check hook. Okay? So again, you can do it neutral, you can do it with a step, you can do it with a slip. Okay? Off that evasion. Another really efficient way to do it. You can avoid a shot, you've made a miss a shot, shot's going over your shoulder, boom, out you go. Really effective. So make sure you practice it off that slip as well. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with your friends. I'll see you next time.